It's it's commonly taught within Christianity that Cain or the descendants of Cain died during the flood. That's an absolute lie. It's well documented in the grammar that that's a lie. It's down to almost a grade school level, almost a kindergarten level, how simple it is to prove this. Here's the word for Cain. It's actually Cayin. Cayin is the word for Cain. It's 7014 in your Strongs. There's a plural form of it in First Chronicles, which I will get to, which is way after the flood when they were still hanging out here. They were the scribes and Pharisees at the time of Christ, and they live among us today, and they control the education, economics, politics, and religion, all geared to bring about a one-world political system, which is the will of God, that we go into a one-world system. As well as later on, there'll be a one-world religion with Satan claiming to be Christ, and the first people that worship him are 1/3 of the world's population by religion, and that would be Christians who will worship the false Christ first. But let's get off of that stuff and prove that Cain survived the flood. Numbers 24:22. Nevertheless, the Kenite. Guess what word this is in the Strongs? 7014. It's the exact same word for Cain. Shall be wasted. This word wasted should read burned or consumed. Until Asher shall carry thee away captive. Well, here's the descendants of Cain in Numbers 24. Well after the flood of Noah. And why would they be burned if they already were wiped out during the flood? Because they weren't wiped out during the flood. And I'll bring up Strong 7014 again here for the word Kenite to show that that's what this is saying. Here's 7014 again. It says Cain there. That's the same exact Hebrew word that was being utilized in Numbers 24:22. Now we're going to go to First Chronicles here, and it's going to be the plural form. It's not going to be Kenite, it's going to be Kenites. And this is even longer after the flood that they were still around, the descendants of Cain. First Chronicles 2:55, and the families of the scribes, that tells us what they were doing. They were doing the books for Israel, they had intermingled into the Levitical priesthood, and they were doing the books, so to speak. And the families of the scribes which dwelt at Jabez, the Tirathites, the Shemeathites, and Sukkothites, these are the Kenites, the descendants of Cain. All the way in the book of Chronicles, we have the descendants of Cain still alive, that came of Hemath, the father of the house of Rechab, the Rechabites. So, if the descendants of Cain are still alive all the way in the book of Chronicles, and they'll be alive all the way up at the time of Christ, because that's who the scribes and Pharisees were, then why is it taught that they were wiped out during the flood, when at a grade school level we can see that they were still around? It's the same exact word in the Hebrew, so you can't try to change that. The descendants of Cain are the 2% of the population that rule over the whole population. We live in a world where God has given us everything we need to thrive. Period. We don't need money, and we don't need deception and greed, and we don't need all those other things. We have what we need. Yet we are all in bondage to the Kenites, the descendants of Cain, through economics, politics, religion, and education. Education is like your smartphones and your computers and wherever you get your information from. I'm going to go into the book of Matthew here to add on to this topic here. Jesus told a parable and the disciples didn't understand it. So he pulled them aside so that the scribes and Pharisees weren't around, and he explained this parable to him. Matthew 13, starting with verse 37. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed, this word seed in the Greek is sperma. It's where we get our word sperm from, is the Son of Man. 38, the field is the world, the good sperma, the good seed are the children of the kingdom. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. This is not a spiritual thing, this is a literal thing. Children of the wicked one. Who's the wicked one here? It's not a multiple choice. It's not a mystery. Satan himself. 39, the enemy that sowed them is the devil. There you go. All the way back in the garden is when he sowed them, when he brought Cain into the fray, because Cain is the child of the serpent, of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, of Satan, period. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. Verse 40, as therefore the tares are gathered and burned in the fire. Remember, the Kenites shall be burned? It's funny how the Bible is all interwoven together perfectly. The Kenites shall be burned, gathered and burned in the fire. So shall it be in the end of this world, this age. There was an age before this one, by the way. Verse 41, the Son of Man shall send forth his angels, and they shall gather out of his kingdom all things that offend, and them which do iniquity, and shall cast them into a furnace of fire. There shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Satan has literal children on this planet. The sooner that a Christian becomes aware of that, the more everything else that's supposed to happen according to the will of God becomes easy to understand. The world we live in is very easy to understand when you understand this stuff. I'm going to go to John chapter 8 to conclude this. This is Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus talking to the scribes and Pharisees, or the Jews, when he was walking on the earth here at the time Christ was here in the flesh. And let's just let this speak for itself and let the word explain it. John 8, verse 37, I know that ye are Abraham's seed, but you seek to kill me because my word hath no place in you. Verse 38, I speak that which I have seen with my Father, uppercase, capital F, and ye do that which ye have seen with your father, lowercase f. Verse 39, they answered and said unto him, Abraham is our father. And Jesus said unto them, if you were Abraham's children, ye would do the works of Abraham. Verse 40, but now ye seek to kill me, a man that hath told you the truth, which I have heard of God. This did not Abraham. Who are these scribes and Pharisees here? Let's continue on here. Verse 41, ye do the deeds of your father. Again, lowercase f. Then said they to him, we be not born of fornication. We have only one Father, even God. Verse 42, Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, you would love me, for I proceeded forth and came from God. Neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Verse 43, why do ye not understand my speech, even because ye cannot hear my word? Verse 44, listen up here. Ye are of your father, lowercase f, the devil. Jesus taught of this topic that the devil or Satan has literal children on this earth. They were brought about in the garden. Cain was the child of Satan. And the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning. Who was the first murderer here? It's not not rocket science, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. So simple to understand when you allow the word of God to speak for itself. And I'm going to add one more thing to this, all the way back in Genesis 3:15 and 16. Biblical Hebrew is a concrete language. If it says something in the Hebrew, that's what it means. You can't alter it and say, oh, it's a spiritual thing. I just thought I would add that on the end there. Cain was the child of the serpent. They survived the flood. They made up the scribes and Pharisees at the time of Christ. They were in the crowd saying, crucify him. That's who they are. And they control the world today through education, economics, politics, and religion.